Pressed the jump, fell, died. And sometimes it's the opposite. You and your character feel like one single being. And most of the time, the problem isn't us. Games just don't always work the way we think they do. Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm Coyote, and in this series I try to explain you how game mechanics work from an engineering point of view, but without code or lectures. I show you what breaks, why it breaks, and the tricks developers use to fix it. Basically, I show you how games actually work, and they work really strange. Today we will look at 3 clever engineering tricks that make jumps in great games feel great. A jump usually breaks in 3 places. You press too late, you press too early, or the ground check doesn't work properly. Each problem has its own fix, and if developers use this, jumps would feel far less like a lottery. Let's start with the basics. Coyote time. One huge issue in almost every movement system is the mismatch between the player's intention and the game's rules. Games follow a strict instruction. This frame you are on the ground, next frame you are in the air. That transition happens instantly, within a single frame, and visually the character might still look grounded, but the system's already decided you are falling. But what if the player tries to jump in that exact moment? It's incredibly easy to miss the right frame, especially at high speed, when you are just hoping to hit the timing. To fix this, developers might add Coyote time. It's named after the Looney Tunes Coyote, who runs off a cliff, keeps going for a split second, and only then falls. There are many ways to implement this trick. For example, we can use timer. We save the last moment when the player was grounded. If the player presses jump shortly after that moment, we allow the jump. This works because falling off the edge is often detected earlier than the player feels it. The timer closes that micro gap between feeling and system logic. It's super common, easy to tune and easy to add to any game. But there are downsides. You have to know the pace of your game. For very fast or speed-changing games, this becomes tricky. Still, it's basically the industry default. Even this simple trick makes a game feel much better. But what if we measure distance instead of the time? If the player is still close enough to the platform, let them jump. This works well in fast games where time-based Coyote time becomes unreliable, but it has some problems. Which platform do we measure distance to? What if the player touches multiple surfaces? It works great on simple layouts like Uncharted, but in classic 2D platformer it can cause a lot of issues. The simplest method: extend the playable area on top of the platform. Of course we can add another layer, sort of invisible buffer zone. Probably the safest approach. You can control everything through level design, but also the most time consuming. Alright, now the opposite problem. You press the jump button too early. For instance, you are still in the air and the game ignores it because you aren't grounded yet. It feels clunky. Happens often during bunny hopping or jump timing chains. And this is where input buffering helps. Input buffer means that the game remembers a button press for a short time and performs the action as soon as it becomes available. If the player presses jump while airborne, the game just stores this input and triggers the jump as soon as grounding happens. And yeah, sometimes though, this still feels like delayed action, and sometimes you want instant responsiveness. That leads us to the third trick: grounding logic. And there might be a problem. The player runs over steps, slopes, or platform edges, and for a split second the system thinks the player is airborne. Press jump in that tiny window, the jump fails. Sure, input buffer could help here. It hides the symptom but doesn't fix the root cause, and it might also affect other mechanics and make the game's behavior less clear. So we want the ground system to be more forgiving and predictable. And there are 3 classical approaches. Make ground detection more solid. Use a larger or just more stable ground check area. Add a big footprint collider or just more raycasts. The second option: add tolerance near the ground. If the ground is extremely close, treat the player as grounded. We don't punish them for a micro gap caused by geometry noise. Or the third option: sticky ground. Movement is expensive, so they define many detailed conditions for being in the air. That's the whole picture. Of course, there are many other solutions, but these are the fundamentals. And again, these are tools, not must-haves. Their goal is reliability and the feeling of control. The original Mario lives perfectly fine without Coyote time. But if a game feels stiff, or players complain about unresponsive controls, it's good to know why and what tools exist to fix that. Also, GMTK has a great example of how much the feel changes when you remove these forgiveness mechanics. It becomes obvious why they exist at all. Let me know in the comments what game mechanic you want me to break down next. And of course, like and subscribe, it helps more than you think. That's all for today. Good luck and goodbye.